Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Lansing. I'm Reverend Sharon Ketchum, and I'm here with you today with a virtual message of spiritual inspiration by a very dear friend of mine, Reverend David McArthur. But first, I'd like to set the tone for this morning by having a little repeat of the wonderful piece of music from Unity on the Bay, Put a Little Joy in Your Heart. I'm thinking that after this past week, as we all become recentered in peace, that's where we need the joy in our heart. So enjoy. Yeah, a little applause for that. And if you're like me, you were probably tapping your foot and clapping along with that music. Oh, little reprieve there. Okay. Well, now I want to take a moment to introduce you to our very special guest today. He's going to touch your heart in ways that maybe you haven't imagined before. Reverend David McArthur, the Unity minister, he was senior minister at the Unity of Walnut Creek for a number of years. He's also a certified heart math trainer, and he worked with the Heart Math Institute for many years. He's a professional speaker, he's a teacher, and he's the author of 3 books, The Intelligent Heart, Your Spiritual Heart, and is that another version of The Intelligent Heart or mistype? Anyway, he's got a couple great books out there, but most of all, he has this great heart, and he has this way of taking us into it in a new and more powerful way. And a while ago, when I was realizing what I was feeling during this pandemic, I really felt the need to familiarize myself with heart math. It's a It's a great technique that's usually taught to corporations, but David has permission to give us that spiritual aspect of it. So right now, I'm going to invite David to come on and take over here. I'm just going to pop out as we meet David McArthur. Hi, David.
Hello, my name is David McArthur, and I am delighted to join you. Today, we get to explore some amazing discoveries that accomplish tremendous things in terms of health and well being, but perhaps most importantly, they help us understand and reach a deeper level of spiritual connection. Now, the discoveries are from the Institute of Heart Math, and I'll share with you, but I think it's important for us to acknowledge that at this time, in the experience of tremendous challenge, social challenge like we almost have never seen before, the health challenges of COVID and what it means for us, for the people we love, for the experiences that we have in living, tremendous challenges. And it is at the time of tremendous challenge that we need to embrace and spiritually connect deeper than we have before. And the reason for that is simple. It is that wisdom, the wisdom of your true spiritual self, that wisdom that connects and brings into our experience the infinite wisdom of the divine. That's what lets us meet these challenges successfully. Now, to understand what I mean by spiritual connection, let me share with you an experience. This experience delighted my heart. It's from my son. My son's name is Peter, and he and his wife Julia live in LA. Julia came home from work one day and she was very upset. And Peter was surprised when he found she was upset because she'd been offered a permanent position. She'd been doing temporary work at a financial services company, and they recognized her talent and capability, and that they were offering her a permanent position. But the reason Julia was upset was she had been working in that company, and she realized why the position was open. And it was because of the dysfunction within that department that had caused people to have to leave. Now, even though it was a wonderful financial opportunity, it was a very difficult situation to step into. Was it right for Julia to do? Could she handle it and make the difference that was needed? As she began to ponder these things, she became more and more upset. It wasn't clear. She didn't know what to do, and as she worried, past anxiety problems that she had experienced began to surface and make her decision even more difficult. And you can imagine for Peter, sitting there as his wife was getting more and more upset, was a real concern for him. But Peter had an advantage. Peter had been trained by the Institute of Heart Math in their techniques, which in their core function, what they do is they transform our body. They take our body through a measurable, demonstrable transformation that changes how we think, it changes the emotional patterns, it takes us out of the experience of stress, and most importantly, it connects us with the deepest levels of our wisdom. In other words, it gives us techniques for deep spiritual connection. Now, HeartMath is a research institute and they don't use those terms, but you and I, as we experience them, know and understand what that is. But Peter had another problem because as he was about to stop Julia and share with her that she should take these steps and she could stop the stress and get to that beautiful wisdom within her. He remembered that he'd tried to do that once before when Julia had been upset about something, and it had become very clear to the two of them that Peter could be her heart math coach or her husband, but not both. So Peter wisely decided that he would be husband and simply sit there quietly in support. But as Peter saw the very real anxiety and stress that Julia was experiencing, he became frustrated at not being able to help. He felt powerless. Now, I'm sure we've all been in that situation where we cared about somebody. We saw them in a situation that was anxiety producing, that was a struggle, where there were difficult and very important decisions to be made. And maybe you remember that experience of being powerless and frustrated. Well, when Peter recognized what he was feeling, he also recognized, well, I can't take Julia through the steps that HeartMath taught me, but I can take myself through them. So that's what he did. He went through a series of internal steps, and within about 2 minutes, Peter was sitting there listening to Julia, but Peter was calm. He felt good. He felt connected with Julia, and Peter knew what to do. So a moment later, he asked Julia, Julia, would it be okay if I just held you for a moment? Would you like that? Okay. She agreed, and Peter put his arms around his wife and just held her quietly. And after a minute or two, there was that deep sigh. And she said, thank you, that's what I needed. And thank you for not saying anything. Yes, that had been part of the guidance too. Well, I can tell you that Julie went on to make a choice. It was a wise decision and has proven to be very beneficial in her life. That experience that Peter went through when he was powerless to help her, when he began to experience his own anxiety and frustration, that experience of that state of consciousness compared to the state of consciousness that was there after he went through those steps, where he was centered, he was clear, he was connected, and he knew what to do. That is the experience of spiritual connection. Now, he accomplished that through the knowledge of the beautiful discoveries from the Institute of HeartMath. HeartMath doesn't put that experience in the terms I'm using. They're a secular organization that does scientific research and passionately supports people in learning these amazing skills that make such a difference in their lives. But I have the privilege of acknowledging how I understand this as a clear, effective way to make our deepest spiritual connections. So important as we're looking for understanding and guidance at this point in our lives. But even before the guidance, remember what happened for Peter? He was sitting there calmly, feeling good, clear, connected. That beautiful experience of spiritual connection is something that each of us can accomplish within minutes. Now, when I look at this to understand it as spiritual connection, one of the reasons that it speaks to that so strongly to me is in my experience as a unity minister, in my studies of Charles Fillmore. Some of you may not know, but Charles Fillmore was a great American mystic who really had deep insight into the spiritual unfolding, the spiritual processes that we as souls go through in this journey of the earth. He shares something with us that I'd like to read to you. I will acknowledge when I first read this, I really didn't understand what he was talking about. But after seeing the research from HeartMath, it took on new meaning for me. He said, there is the development in man of a greater capacity to know himself and to understand the purpose of creation. Wow, isn't that a fascinating thing? The development in each of us of a greater capacity to know ourselves and to understand the purpose of creation, to know, to understand. He then went on and said, the Bible gives many examples of the awakening of this brain of the heart. It, in seers and lawgivers and in prophet, it is accredited as coming from the heart. Now, those words of Charles Fillmore began to take on deeper meaning for me as I saw the research from the HeartMath Institute. And one of the simple, but it certainly touched me profoundly as I began to understand what she was talking about. Dr. Emily Cady, one of the great early truth teachers of unity, said this simple statement: understanding. Now, understanding this capacity that we have to expand our awareness into a greater whole and see its purpose and what is unfolding there. Understanding. Understanding is a spiritual birth, a revelation of God within the heart of man. If you'll notice, both of these point us to the heart. Let's look at it in a different framework. Now, some of you may remember, I really don't, and most folks I know don't, but if you can remember back to that decision that you made before you incarnated, before you as a soul, as an infinite being, chose to enter into the experience of this third dimensional realm that we call Earth, to enter and animate what is our human body and human form. When you made that decision, you made an agreement that you would be there in this realm. But in this body, what happens is this body has a structure for interpreting the third dimensional realm. It's our brains. And it's a wonderful, wonderful structure. And it has evolved tremendous capacities. Just the fact that we can sit here now, having overcome both time and space to connect together. Wow, what an amazing thing. That's part of the capability of the brain. However, that's not wisdom. Wisdom is something different. The understanding that comes from our spiritual connection is something different. That does not come through the cranial brain. That comes, as Charles Fillmore acknowledged, as Dr. Cady acknowledged, through the heart. Now that's long been taught in many different spiritual traditions. But what we haven't known is how to do it effectively. Oh, it's not that we haven't had ways that over time helped us grow that relationship with the heart. But what's important to me is what happened with Peter. Within minutes, he was in that spiritual connection. And part of his ability to do that was he knew how to connect through his heart. what the Institute of Heart Math researchers discovered is that there is what I want to call an access code to the heart. There is something that we can do. When we do that thing, the heart changes. We can measure the change in patterns within the heart. And it doesn't just get a little less this way or a little more that way. It changes to a much higher level of operation. In that level of operation, it changes the whole body. It changes the brain. It changes the emotional processes. And it opens our system in a way that I understand us to receive more fully and completely our spiritual nature into our experience. Okay, so that we are able to have that guidance. We are able to transform from being upset to being centered and peaceful. We are able to feel that connection which is caring for us through our challenges. Now, to make that shift, the shift from the head to the heart, requires a conscious choice. And I would like to share with you today just a very simple understanding of how to do that. In our workshop, I want to go into greater detail, and I want to go into how we access that beautiful wisdom that showed up for Peter. But the important thing is that in making that choice, we step into spiritual connection. That is what brings the peace. That is what brings the connectedness, the beautiful spiritual knowledge of how to meet what is before us. What HeartMath discovered is that there is something very specific that we are capable of feeling. When we feel that, it causes the heart to change. When the heart changes, we enter into this state of what I call deep spiritual connection. Now, that change is caused by a very specific set of feelings. Now, I'll tell you the bottom line right now. Those feelings are a part of love. We are back into the great teachings of Jesus. Love one another. We're back into those commandments that we're again and again loved. The difference is that looking at it through science, we can now focus very specifically and directly into how we experience that so that it produces the measurable change. Interestingly enough, it's not thoughts of love. It is the feeling. And now let me say love is a very, very broad feeling. So what the scientists did was they took and narrowed down that feeling. Okay, they narrowed it to where they could say, okay, you feel this. If you feel this, the other person hooked up to the equipment is feeling the same thing. And when they feel that, it causes this change. So I'm going to share with you today one of those feelings. And it is a very simple feeling. It is very profound. It is a core experience of the feeling of love, so that it produces measurably this change within the body. The feeling I would like to invite you to work with is the feeling of appreciation. Now, Unity teaches appreciation all the time. It's a wonderful thing, but I want to approach it a little differently. Generally, what we appreciate, we view as appreciation, is kind of what's nice. You know, it's nice to appreciate. It's uplifting. Oh, look at the good things in my life. Look at that person. They're so helpful. It lifts us. I would like for you to practice appreciation in the week before you. Practice appreciation as you meet the amazing challenges in your life, but to practice it in a very specific way, to feel it very deeply. It is not the thought of appreciation, it is the feeling, the heartfelt feeling of appreciation. So, just at this moment, you might think, well, what is it that you really appreciate? Now, appreciate so deeply that you really feel it. Now, I live where it's tremendously beautiful, and I can look around and see mountains, and I appreciate that. But you know what makes a difference for me? I appreciate my granddaughter. She gives the greatest hugs. When I see that delightful being, I feel how much I appreciate her. There are people in my life who bless me in very special ways. And when I really focus not on what they're doing, but on how deeply I appreciate them and I feel that, that makes the change. To invite you right now, touch your heart. Because the first step to take in moving from our heads down to our hearts is just to touch your heart and focus there for a moment. Hold your attention there. Now join me in that feeling of appreciation. Feel it deeply. There is something so wonderful in your life that you can feel it and you can feel your heart begin to fill. What is filling your heart is the flow of spirit into expanded levels in your being. That presence is there to heal, to uplift us, and to guide us. As you feel that deep appreciation, it's not nice, it's powerful. It makes the difference in our spiritual connection. And once we are spiritually connected, we can step into the challenges before us and meet them successfully. I so appreciate that at this time, when our world is in great need, that your heart will be focused on appreciation, because that brings that greater spiritual energy in and through our beings. It not only lifts you, it lifts us all. And for that, I am so grateful. Thank you.
Well, thank you, David. I'm sitting here smiling as I sit in appreciation. And of course, as we always have a spiritual practice for the week, that's a great idea to just really find that deep appreciation as we go through, because I think we are all healing after this week. And it's just so important to get back into that safe, deep, powerful space of the wisdom of our heart. And if you'd like to learn more about heart math, David's offering us is going to be a live Zoom workshop on this coming Saturday, the 16th, the morning from 10 to noon and the afternoon from 2 to 4. So I certainly look forward to going through this again and refamiliarizing myself with those techniques, because I know that I really need it right now. And so maybe I'll see some of you there. If you want to check that out, there's more information on our website. Right now, speaking of appreciation, just want to really express my appreciation for each and every one of you that have done so tremendously in supporting this ministry through over 9 months now of COVID restrictions, let's call it that, of being forced into separation, even though we've still been able to connect in different ways and keep it going. It's a very different world that we're in right now, but it hasn't stopped the love and appreciation of each other. I also want to remind you that in January each year, we pick our Congregant's Choice, a local charitable organization that has spiritually fed us, that has inspired us with their work. And so you get to nominate a local charitable organization that has moved you, that you truly appreciate. And then we'll vote on it on the 31st, vote on it by email, e-votes, as that will go. So yeah, just opening ourselves to that appreciation. And along that same line, even as we bless the gifts we've received as a ministry, let us take a moment to bless all the gifts we've received as individuals. Each of us have things in our lives that we can deeply appreciate. And so we just take a moment to bless those many, many blessings that we have been gifted with. As we affirm together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I praise, give thanks, and am glad. Thank you. And just a note, we are available on demand. You can binge watch us, or you can watch each segment separately. So I'm looking forward to joining David here shortly with a wonderful meditation with him. He has just one of those voices that kind of takes you to that place. So see you in the next segment. And if it's on Sunday, join us for a live Zoom fellowship time just to have a little friendly chat together. And for those that like our traditional ending, just gather in deep appreciation one for another. The way we end our services together. Holding hands, we hold each other in our heart.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one tie that binds us, that can't be undone. I choose love. I choose love. Peace in my family is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one loving family, sharing one son. I choose love. Yes, I do. Peace for our planet is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one. One choice unites us. Let this be